dial into the meeting. When recognized by the chair or for any motions or seconding of motions, please state your name prior to speaking. Please note if you're dialed in, you may not make a motion, second a motion, nor vote on any motion. It's highly recommended this meeting be in person whenever possible. Guests or persons having relevant knowledge or information may attend and speak as part of the agenda. Upon acceptance of the meeting agenda by the board, all guests must be recognized by the chair before addressing the board or participating in discussion. At this time, I'll have Julie Schwartz do our roll call.
Thank you. Mark Balistreri.
Here.
Amanda Schultz. Here. Tim Morris.
Here.
Jeff Nuding.
Here.
Jeffrey House.
Here.
Bob Terry.
Here.
Todd Murray.
Here.
Steve DeZera. Or Ryan Greenberg. Brian McClure.
Here.
Kimberly Keating. Michael Wolf. Alan Turner.
Here.
Anthony Tripp.
On WebEx in Glen Cove, New York.
Juan Figueroa.
Here.
Michael Soretto.
Here.
Jacqueline Salvatore. Here. Alan Berkowitz.
Here on WebEx.
Thank you. And we need quorum.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Everyone should have received a copy of the October 16th, 2024 SEEK Board meeting minutes. Are there any questions or corrections to the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the October 16th meeting.
So moved, Brian LaFleur.
Brian LaFleur, second. Alan Turner, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Everyone should have also received a copy of the draft agenda for today's meeting, which was also placed in your packet. Are there any questions or comments on the agenda? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda as drafted. Bob Terry, make a motion. Bob Terry, second. Tim Morris, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Before we get started on the reports and updates, I'd like to welcome two new board members. Both are assembly appointments. Mr. Alan Berkowitz is on the phone, and Ms. Jacqueline Salvatore, is that how you say it? Correct? Yes. Welcome to both of you. I look forward to working with you guys.
Thank you.
All right, we'll get on to the committee reports. 9-1 Advisory Committee. Mr. Alan Turner.
Most of you were aware we had the vote on the minutes last, or the standards last last August, and went through the process, public comment. I will refer to Mr. Callahan for further details.
Sure, so a quick rundown on the process, where we've gone so far, where we still need to go. So we adopted the draft standards for the last board meeting. We then published the standards in the state register on the agency website and then appropriate other publications. We had a 45-day comment period where we received comments, and now we're at the stage where we can adopt the final standards. We're going to have the discussion and vote during old business, but assuming once we do adopt the standards, it then goes back to the state register for publication, goes back to Department of State for adoption of the codes, rules, and regulations, and as currently drafted, they would become effective upon publication. That'll take a few weeks once we send those documents over, but once they're adopted, it just takes a few weeks to become effective. But we'll go into more detail during the old business section of the meeting.
Okay, thanks, Jim. All right, NG 911 Working Group, Amanda Schultz, our acting chair and assistant director.
Next slide, please. Oh, thank you. So our next gen 911 working group, we last met on the 22nd. Our meetings have changed frequency, so we were doing them quarterly in 2024, so in 2025 we'll be meeting monthly now. Updates were given at the last meeting on the state plan, the assessment, the strategic plan development, and the RFP progress. Backup PSAP guidelines were discussed. As you saw in the PSAP standards, there's some language in regards to backup PSAPs. So we're hoping that this guideline will help PSAPs develop their plan for their backup PSAPs, get them thinking about, PACE planning and jurisdictions, talking to another county about, working together so that they can see their backup if needed. So we talked about that. We also talked about a communications plan as we start to ramp up the NG 911 stuff. We need to have a communications plan. So our GIS working group and our NG 911 working group, we're looking at ways that we can distribute paper, things that we're talking about, plans that we're talking about, so that everybody can see them in one general location. So we've had discussions about that, and we're still continuing to discuss how we're going to do that. The CHE, the call handling equipment technical assistance guideline, is something that we talked about in this last meeting. We think that it's super important that our PSAPs know if they're going to refresh their call handling equipment in their 911 center, that they have some technical assistance. So that's what this group will be working on in the next couple months to get out to the masses. And our next meeting will be February 12th at 1 p.m.
Thank you, Amanda. Any questions for Amanda? Okay. GIS working group, Jason Baum and Steve Carr, you're both here.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so we had 2 regular meetings since our last get-together. Attendance is pretty good. We also had a special meeting where we had significant attendance. It also took as we sent out to our members that we're going to be talking about the New York State plan, and we had significant follow-up and came in, attended. In addition, the group is working with the state and its consultants to augment our list with additional members as a mechanism to feed the information out there regarding the plan. Discussions have been around increasing membership, that's one of them. And at this point, very high-level discussions of the next-gen plan. Initial feedback from the group, there were some common themes there. The common themes, one was when, right? And of course, we expected that. But the other common theme was what can they do in the meantime? And if you go down a couple bullets there, you'll see from the ITS group with their streets and addresses is something that counties can start doing right now in preparation for next gen, even before there's a full plan out there, because the NENA standard has a readiness number there, and they can start trying to achieve that using New York State ITS. So that works out pretty good there. While we talked mainly about next gen the last couple of meetings, we still talk about other emergency or 911 mapping requirements, and that includes CAD. One of the specific questions that came up is how is legacy CAD going to handle next gen call routing? So that's something we need to put their mind at ease, that it is 2 separate things, and there are ways around that as well, and we'll be discussing that in our individual groups. We discussed how to disseminate information back out to our members, as well as getting feedback back in, and Amanda, I think, is working on that with the state as well. We'll be discussing that in our we did distribute the NENA GIS transition document. I'm not going to say it's light reading, because nothing that comes out of NENA is light reading, but it does give a pretty broad view for GIS. And the thing that we want to concentrate on is GIS users in a lot of municipalities, they don't play in the 911 space, right? So some of them may know terms like ALI and MSAG, and others aren't going to know it at all. So we have to address the full range of potential users and bringing them up to speed. So we're going to be looking to put together documentation that tells them that while GIS is a significant part of next gen, the swim lane is fairly narrow, and we're going to look to get that information out there so that they don't overthink what they're trying to do while the state puts together the plan. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Jason or Steve? All right. We'll move on to the State Agency Communications Committee. Mr. Mazzolini.
Next slide, please. We met on 121. We presented to the group on COOP and PACE planning. It was the same presentation that was given to this meeting last year. We had emphasized the need to have these in state agencies, Then we did an agency roundtable update. As in the press releases, the New York State Jewelry Authority has announced that they have contracted to build a new P25 Phase 2 system, and they gave us an update on that as well.
And we'll move right into citizens alerting.
We met virtually on 123. We had a really good meeting. We recapped our 12-5 initial meeting of the New York Alert Working Group. So, as we discussed in our October meeting of the as we discussed in the October meeting of the Citizen Alerting Committee, we formed a New York Alert Working Group. So agencies that use the state's New York Alert, which is the state's alerting software platform, we wanted to get together and have sort of discuss best practices, and we decided in 2025 we're actually going to develop and issue a best practices alerting guide for user agencies of New York Alert. We also spent quite a bit of time discussing the use of alerting in the recent Los Angeles wildfires. We had a gentleman from the Federal IPAWS office on, who gave us some detailed information about some of the issues that we're seeing during the Los Angeles wildfires and some of the ways that they're being, corrected so they don't happen again.
Thanks, Matt. Any questions for Matt? Okay, that's it on committee reports, so I'll entertain a motion to accept committee reports.
Motion, Alan Turner.
Alan Turner motion.
I'll second.
Second, Sheriff. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. We'll move on to program updates. We'll start off with Phil McHugh on grants. Next slide.
So right now, still everything is in progress with the PSAP and SIG formula. We've put forward the proposals for the SIG targeted grant. They're being worked on as well. And we're hoping soon that we will have more information on these. And I know it's highly anticipated, so hopefully it will be soon, but that's all the information we have at this time.
All right, we'll move on to Julie Schwartz and our commune program update.
So this is just a brief overview of our schedule for the 2025 year. We have several courses planned regionally, which is a huge success for us in 2024, and we had a lot of positive feedback on offering our courses regionally. So I thank the participating stakeholders that requested these regional courses, as it increases our training numbers. Next slide, please. So the commune program schedule of events is available on our website, and it will be updated frequently. As stated, we are offering regional courses, and we ask that everyone shares our schedule and the information pertaining to the commune program, as we are trying to increase the knowledge and the training numbers. Regional requests can be submitted to OIEC at oiectraining.dishes.ny.gov. Next slide, please. We are currently working on expanding our cadre of instructors so that we can continue to teach the commune program as a self-reliant, self-sustaining program. FEMA and CISA ECD recently decided at the end of 2024 that we will no longer be offering radio operator courses, and this determination was made because a lot of the components of the radio operator curriculum is included in other course materials and other course curriculum, such as INTD, OXCOM, and INCM. And we, as OIEC and the state training program, are looking to potentially doing a virtual or e-learning component of the radio operator course so that it will be available on the DISH's learning management system. Next slide, please. We are promoting succession planning and transfer of institutional knowledge. We feel that this is important as a lot of our current population are aging out, and we are seeing signs of concern for replacement of those individuals who take the knowledge and the experience with them. And we just encourage the stakeholders in communications to consider having a plan or start promoting and training new and replacement individuals for those that are leaving the current positions. Next slide, please. So succession planning solutions, we obviously promote training because that is ensuring that vital knowledge is preserved, and enables continuity. We feel that with the advancing of systems, that we should bring more people on board and encourage training and knowledge. We also encourage mentoring programs, hands-on training, and we would help and assist in any way that we can. We may have to come up with a plan to do this, but we are very willing to do so as long as we can put the time and efforts forward for that. We just need to know, so people need to bring their concerns to us and be ready to give us something to justify having the time to do this. As the last sentence says, we cannot wait until it's too late, and we need to start thinking about and planning for this now. I think that's it, but is there a next slide? No. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Any questions for Julie? As she stated, you know, we're more than willing to help out. I know Phil, Julie, and Joanna spent a lot of time on the ComU stuff, and we built a good program in New York. I think it's a model across the country, so we can certainly help to work on the succession planning, which is all very important. So thank you, Julie. All right, I'll pass this over to Amanda Schultz and talk a little bit about the 911 program.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So as everybody may or may not know, Paul Glasser, who is in charge of our radio engineer manager that was in charge of the 911 program for OIAC, has retired, so we wish him well. So I've taken on the role of being in charge of the 911 program. So some project updates. The New York State statewide 911 plan is in review. Next Gen 911 strategic plan workshop meetings are being held, and the transition plan, which comes after awarding an RFP, is not been started yet. For our strategic plan working groups, the group's been established and is reviewing and discussing the assessment that was conducted earlier last year by Nice Tech and Mission Critical Partners. And our first meeting was held on the 22nd. There's a couple of follow-up meetings. One's on February 7th, February 25th, and March 13th. These workshops are a collaboration of OIAC personnel, our consultants, Nice Tech, and Mission Critical Partners, the 911 community, which is the 911 coordinators, and C3 Group, and GIS folks. I don't want to, I'd be remiss to miss our GIS.
Don't forget GIS.
I cannot. Our transition plan, like I talked about before, that will begin once we've identified the system to transition to. So what are we exactly doing with next generation 911? So that plan is forthcoming, but we are thinking about it and keeping it in the back of our heads.
Any questions for Amanda? Thank you, Amanda. Our federal partner reports, Chris Tuttle could not be here today. He's going through a second round of chemo. It was okay to share, he said. We wish him the best, and we know everybody supports him. For FEMA, we have Josh Green, Region 2.
Hey, good morning. A lot of stuff going on with the federal government these days. I don't have a true report for communications per se, but I'll be open for any questions afterwards if you guys have any questions about what's going on.
All right, thanks, Josh. For FirstNet Authority, Mr. David Cook has actually officially retired, believe it or not. So we currently, there's a vacancy for his position, and the local representative will be filling that spot. Is on the phone? We have John Hunt on the phone. Oh, John, would you like to speak? I'm sorry.
Excuse me. Good morning. I'd be happy to say a few words. First of all, let me introduce myself. John Hunt. I've been with the FirstNet Authority for a little over 9 years now. And you heard correctly, David Cook retired at the end of the year. And the organization is going to be actively looking for a full-time replacement for Dave. I am not located in the state of New York or even in Region 2. I actually reside in the state of Michigan. And I have been appointed to act on an interim basis as the conduit, if you will, or contact for day-to-day type questions or activities related to the FirstNet program from an authority perspective. Also on the call today is Lisa Dixon. Lisa is my boss. And Lisa, I don't know if you'd like to say a few words or not, but if you do, take the floor, that's fine.
Yeah, sure. This is Lisa Dixon. I am the senior manager for the public safety engagement at the FirstNet Authority for the eastern part of the United States, and very pleased to be here, but very sad to have lost Dave in this role. And as Josh indicated, we have a lot of changes going on here at the federal government, but this region and New York are very important to us. We are keeping it as high priority, and will certainly be, available to help anything that you guys need. We're going to be active with you until we fill this full time. So I hope you'll just reach out to us. I'll provide our contact information after the call. John and I will give you our contact information. We asked you to just reach out if you need anything. We want to fill that role. Finally, I just say that John and I both are longtime employees here at the authority. I've been here about 9 years, and both of us came from public safety backgrounds or communications backgrounds. So we are certainly eager to help out in any way, and we'll bring in other resources as we need to. So thank you so much for having us today.
All right, thank you. We look forward to working with you. And of course, Matt Delaney is our contact at OIAC for the FirstNet Authority if anybody needs any information or assistance. All right, additional reports. We'll move on to C3 report. Mac Beckwith is now acting chair of the C3 group.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to the board. We had a very active meeting last night. All of the consortium chairs were present at the meeting. We had a lot of very good discussion regarding ongoing projects in all the various different regions throughout the state. A lot of good stuff is happening, obviously using a lot of the grant funding and et cetera that's been set forth that we're receiving. We had some discussion regarding interoperability, obviously ISSI connections and some issues that some of our partners are experiencing with some of the various different vendors and technology challenges and et cetera. We did have a discussion regarding NextGen and looking forward to that rollout and what that's going to look like. Continued training, obviously sponsoring through OEIC and bringing that into our regions. And then lastly, we did have a very long discussion with regards to a project that New York City is working on. They're coordinating all their schools for an alarm system that they have. And as you know, in our counties, a lot of that is coming into us, into our 911 centers. And we all have multiple school districts that we're getting alerting in various different ways. So we had a very good discussion about potentially looking to partner with other agencies to hopefully standardize on some of that, so we don't have multiple systems coming into our 911 centers that may or may not work specifically for us. So again, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
I know that was a topic at one of the board meetings board member Soretto brought up, and it's great that everybody's looking into it.
Yeah, I think it's very important for the 911 centers that have multiple school districts, because to get them on the same page is very difficult. And we already have a standard in the state for alarm companies. We just need that same standard for these apps that they're generating.
Thanks, Mike. All right, Mr. Kopstein, I believe you were on the phone. We're up to the SAFECOM report.
Good morning. I'm going to try to go through this quickly. Questions at the end. Excuse me. On NextGen 911, we've got a program looking at AI in the ECCs based on a pilot project in Arlington, Virginia, that looks at voice modality as they come in both to emergency and non-emergency calls. We're looking at shaken as also in the ECCs to kind of identify nuisance and swatting type calls. P25, we're looking at GPS in public safety, location services. Naming for mission critical push to talk, the format and talk route nomenclature. Apparently nationwide, there've been some conflict. Reminder on COOP planning for ECCs. We've got 2 programs, data backup considerations for public safety, and that includes cloud backup and the like, as well as cyber risks to LMR. The 2nd edition, and that's in progress. Mark, the World Cup meetings are continuing. North Carolina Emergency Management have decided they're going to have a cache of 75 Starlink systems because of what happened during hurricanes. Though not applicable to New York as far as I know, out west we're looking at low orbiting satellite for cellular communications in tribal areas. Jamming. Radio jamming and Wi-Fi, etc. is a big thing now. It's being used by multinational criminal groups and the like. Brian LaFleur had information on it, and offline Matt Delaney can share some information. I'm not going to go into more on that in an open forum. The next JAMX exercise is scheduled for Seattle in July. The People's Republic of China Communist Party, the typhoons, still a big issue. There are certain issues I can't go into in an open format. Be more than happy to do it in a closed format. One state's next-gen 911 system was attacked and penetrated through a third-party vendor. We still have problems with interoperability on LTE platforms between carriers. And that's the extent of my open source report. I'll be more than happy to take questions.
Thanks, Jay. Any questions for Jay? Thanks, Jay. All right, we'll move into old business. We have the PSAP standards under old. I'm going to turn it over to Jim to speak to that again.
Sure. All right. So you were all given copies of the comments we received from the standards and a quick rundown of what the comments and OIAC's assessment of those comments. To go over it very briefly, we only got 5 comments. Some of these comments we received from entities that aren't actually subject to the PSAP standards, we believe. These standards are not changing who is subject to the standards, which under the statute is PSAPs that are designated to receive wireless calls. So pure secondary PSAPs, not getting a wireless call in the first instance, still isn't subject to the standards. We also received some comments raising matters where for a few of them we thought the standard was clear enough. A few of them, they're concerned specific to a particular location. They can potentially be addressed through the variance process if there's something that can't be complied with right away. And also there's some questions that raise one small clarification. So in the copy of the standards you have before you on page 5, we add the word newly to make clear that some standards that apply to folks in certain roles only apply to folks newly appointed to those roles. So everyone who's currently in certain training roles is grandfathered in, but new folks have to comply with the new standards. So that's the substance of the standards. Turn it over to Mark for discussion.
Any questions? Okay, as everybody's aware, we were hoping to pass these today, so I'm going to read a resolution, and we'll vote on the resolution, right? Do I read the whole resolution?
Yeah, me as well.
Okay. Whereas the State of New York Interoperable Emergency Communications Board, in accordance with County Law Article 6A, Section 328, is empowered to promulgate minimum standards for the operation of public safety answering points. And whereas in promulgating such standards, the board is required to examine national models of best practice. And whereas in consultation with the board's 911 Advisory Committee and the New York State Division of Homeland Security Emergency Services, Office of Interoperable and Emergency Communications, revised minimum standards have been developed. And whereas a notice of proposed amendments were published in the November 6th, 2024 issue of the State Register on the New York State Division of Homeland Security Emergency Service website. and in other appropriate publications. And whereas the board received and considered public comment on the proposed standards for a 45-day period following the above publications, and whereas minor clarifying modifications have been made to the proposed standards. Now therefore be it resolved that the board adopts final revised minimum standards as set forth in the information notice attached to this resolution, and be it further resolved that the chair is authorized to take all further actions as may be necessary or required by law to effectuate this action. I'll entertain a motion to accept the resolution. Mr. Serrato, second? Second, Brian LaFleur. Brian LaFleur, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you, everybody. That is it under old business, so I'll entertain a motion to accept old business. Make the motion. Alan Turner. Tim Moore, second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Under new business, there have been some changes to the ethics rules. I'm going to, again, turn it over to Mr. Callahan to just go over those changes with this board.
Just a quick heads up. So under the new ethics law, board members are policymakers. You'll have to take an annual ethics training. It's going to be alternating between a live course and an online refresher you can take on your own time. But since this is one of our first cycles, we'll have to figure out a time for us all to do a ethics training. Now, by live, it just needs to be live that you can ask questions, which means we can do it over WebEx. So in theory, we can do it like after a board meeting, or if there's a more convenient time, we can do it any other time. But just a heads up, we'll be doing ethics training a bit more frequently than we did previously, which is more like every 3 weeks, I think it was. So just a heads up.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Any questions? Okay. As stated at the August 24th SEEK Board meeting, and due to the increased need for deployable assets from our wireless carrier partners, we've asked the major carriers to present at our quarterly SEEK Board meetings what they have available to our communications community for both planned and unplanned events. These presentations will be for informational purposes only to aid our situational awareness of existing resources. They will not be discussing any products or services they may offer. We had Verizon at the May 2024 meeting, AT&T FirstNet at the October, and today we have T-Mobile will be presenting. Mr. Brian Gould? Sure. Thank you. Do you have slides? I do. Okay. Yes. Don't set your slides up. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll get you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members. Thank you for the honor of presenting to the board. While they're getting the slides up, quick introduction. My name is Brian Gould. I'm a retired police chief from the town of Cheektowaga. I started my career as a public safety dispatcher, so I love the communication world and everything you guys are talking about. Also, 30 years of volunteer fire service with time as past chief. With me today is Reva Navarro, retired captain from the New York State Police. Reva is our New York State Public Safety Representative at T-Mobile. My position at T-Mobile is one of public safety strategy. It's my job to make sure that all of our public safety partners understand what T-Mobile is doing in the first responder world and what we can offer. I put my slides together to do exactly that. If anything sounds sales pitchy, I apologize. It's not my intention at all. I don't do anything with sales. That's why we have Reva, and Reva helps with all that stuff. So real quick, if I can get into our emergency response team. We have whatever all the other major carriers have. So T-Mobile bought Sprint. Sprint was one of the original emergency response teams. We have all the backup generators, all the farm animals, the cows, the colts, everything like that. But one thing I want to point out about T-Mobile's network, and I've been with T-Mobile a little bit over a year now, and I'm learning a lot about it as it goes. T-Mobile's network it's younger than most of our competitors, so we have some more newer technology on some of our equipment. And we also, as I mentioned, we bought Sprint. So we have a lot more redundancy in our network because we have sites that are maybe closer to each other than would have originally been designed because we bought them and acquired their sites. So an example of why I bring that up, we were working with the City of Buffalo on eclipse planning. And they mentioned where we should put some of our mobile equipment if we were bringing it up to the City of Buffalo. And our network team's response was, We've surveyed it, and we don't need it. We're not gonna deploy any equipment there. And I bring that up because it's important for agencies to recognize that just because we don't have equipment on site, it doesn't mean we're not supporting your event or emergency or whatever is going on. We have ways that we could remotely tilt antennas. We can increase capacity on the backside at our sites. We can optimize our sites to make sure that capacity is meeting the needs. And we're able to do that without deploying the cows and colts and things like that. So it's just, I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that because a lot of times people will not see the trucks there and think that we're not supporting when in fact we're doing it remotely and able to monitor the network and making sure, and if we need to, we will deploy them. We have them, we can bring them out. You know, major response that I was a part of and that I saw was the hurricanes. I cover my territory is Virginia up to Maine, so I was involved with some of the response in Virginia. And, you know, another example, we just didn't need it down there. We had 1 or 2 sites that we were able to continue to provide connection in the community. Next slide. As I mentioned, we have a full-time emergency response team, an emergency management team. One of my responsibilities is to help support that team. So I'm bringing my experience in the public safety side. A lot of our emergency response team members have military experience. They're told to be ready to deploy, to be out there, to be ready to sleep in your trucks or your vehicles, whatever you need, because we understand when we go into these situations, you know, everything's all about working together. One of the things that I'd like to bring up while I talk about this slide too is that the carriers do work together. On blue sky days, obviously, we're out trying to get each other's businesses all the time because everybody's already got phones in their pockets and we just want to make them switch. But gray skies days, emergencies, planning, we get together. We're able to work together. One example, as I mentioned, the hurricanes. There was a community in Western Virginia, not Western Virginia, but western side of Virginia, where just by luck, I mean, it's by luck sometimes, our site was the only site that was up. You know, it can happen to any of us. You know, when you see a disaster of that size, we were able to share, to open up that site to roaming so that any carriers or any users within that community were able to connect. Another example, we're out supporting the California wildfires right now. And we're in the command centers, and you can bring up the next slide too, because I think that's, it's coming up. Our command center slide. We're in the command center. We have equipment that we can bring that will, like mobile routers in cases. And what we're doing with that equipment is we're turning on Wi-Fi through that equipment, so that even if you're not a T-Mobile subscriber, you can turn on Wi-Fi calling on your phone, and you're able to connect, and your phone's going to work like you're on your own network. So we all work together. We got good relationships. Now that I've been in this role, attending a lot of things such as the Secret Service sets up critical infrastructure command centers whenever there's a national special security event. January was a busy one. We had Jimmy Carter's funeral, we had the inauguration, and we had January 6th, which was now a national special security event. So we assigned representatives to be in those command centers. The Super Bowl's coming up. I'll be down in New Orleans manning a command center down there. And this is any event that's going on. You guys need to know that we are, we're in the game, so to say. We are winning some major public safety agencies across the state, including New York City now. So we're going to have, soon they have a very large presence in New York City. We are definitely someone you should consider if you have something going on. Next slide. Just to go over a couple of the way what we do. So pre-event, obviously we're hardening our sites like everybody else does, putting generators on, making sure we have backup connections to them. Working with our vendors, that talks to a lot of the backhaul. Because a cell site, you need two things. You need the connection and you need the power. So we're working with that. One thing I'd like to point out on this one, special event planning and exercises. We want you to reach out, even if your public safety agencies aren't on our network. We want you to reach out because chances are, the officers or the firefighters' personal phones might be on our network. A lot of users, the public, the people who are coming, the people we're serving might be on our network. So we just ask that you include us in any of your planning. We're happy to send representatives to be present during any emergency exercises, stuff like that. I just took part in Pennsylvania Emergency Management last month. I was down in Harrisburg at a tabletop exercise. All three carriers represented. And that's really, you know, that's what it needs to be, because you never know when the emergency hits your community. You might know which public safety agencies are on which network, but you never know. And we can definitely, like I mentioned, even if your agencies aren't on our network, we might be able to support and to be able to provide something that will help keep the communications going. Next slide. Like I mentioned, we have all the deployables. We'll bring them out if needed. I think this speaks to, you know, I don't think I have to speak much on this, but again, I mentioned the wildfires, the hurricanes. We've had quite a presence out west right now with a lot of equipment, just because the sites are just absolutely destroyed out there, and now they're worried about mudslides, which will take the ice and the snow and the wind, I guess, up here. So, next slide. As I mentioned, we are available to be in your command centers if you have emergencies. If you're spinning up an EOC, please reach out. I'll have my contact at the end. So please reach out, let us know, even if it's just virtually, or even if it's just knowing that we're here. One of the reasons it's important to consider us is if you have areas that you want us to prioritize restoration in. It helps to know that. It helps to have those face-to-face relationships. It helps to build those relationships now, so that when we do have those major events, it's not the first time that we've ever talked. It's not that, you know, that you don't know who you're going to get. You know, I am your point of contact for all of New York State. Should you have anything, I'm happy to make the phone calls and to get whatever equipment we need here in New York State. Next slide. So as I mentioned, when should we engage? As soon as possible when an event occurs. We're already watching. We're going to know if something's going on. Our network guys, the network is so advanced. They're able to see, obviously, any sites that are down. They're able to see how a site that's down is it going to actually affect the coverage in the area. And if it is, you know, we're already making phone calls. Whenever something comes across, tornadoes, hurricanes, we're looking at who our public safety customers are in the affected areas, and we're reaching out before they reach out to us, seeing if there's any needs that they have, and really working with the community to make sure they stay connected. Next slide. Nicole is on here. She's currently out in California right now, so that's why I'm covering her slides. But that is our 24/7 emergency response team hotline. We also have the email address listed on there. Again, I'm available myself, but we'd like to put the 24-hour hotline up there too. Next slide. Go ahead. I'm going to go really quick through this, but I just wanted to mention it just so because this seems like a technical group of people as well, just so you understand what T priority is about, because there's a lot of talk. There's going to be a lot more talk coming about it. We recognize the need for wireless communication when it comes to public safety. Next slide. I'm going to go fast because I don't want it to be a sales pitch. But primary agencies that we're offering this product to are first responder agencies. And then we're also an extended primary agency, so we are reaching out to private companies that do have a function when it comes to emergency response. Next slide. Basically, our network built on the 5G standalone is what allows us to use this newer technology to give our first responders their own slice of our network. This is really the one I just want to spend a minute on. What they've designed on our network is, instead of just giving a slice that is solely dedicated to first responders, because of our 5G standalone network and the capabilities of the technology, that slice that we have is flexible. It's dynamic. So if there's a situation where we have too many first responders in a scene, give an example, the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, so many responders came that the band dedicated for first responders, it could have been overwhelmed. May have, I'm not going to say it was or wasn't. What our network does is that band if we start to reach capacity on that band, it'll expand. And it'll bump off all users except for people calling 911 if need be. So that's the technology behind our T priority rollout that you're, it's really going to start, you're going to start hearing a lot about. And that's what we're offering to our public safety agencies, is that dynamic slice into our primary agencies, our corporations who are responding to public safety emergencies. Next slide. We also, like all the other carriers, provide priority and preemption for first responders. They, front of the line. I think everybody here understands what that's about. Next slide. And this one I'd like to talk about. We have a whole division of people within our organization anybody who is qualified for wireless priority service through the CISA program, we handle that for our customers. We actually enroll them and we manage their connections. And we say that it's so important because you all know that wireless priority is set up to help first responders in times of extreme congestion. But I can tell you, it's 23 years as a police officer, 30 as a firefighter, I never even heard of wireless priority service until I came to T-Mobile. So, maybe shame on me for that, but I can tell you, in the time I'm spending with agencies across the country, a lot haven't either. So we make sure that we sign up everybody who's eligible for WPS, and we make sure that they understand how to use it. Next slide, I think that's it. So again, there's my contact information. I put one too many threes in there. Oh, my 5380, if you're writing it down. Sorry. But again, I appreciate the chance to be here today. The work you guys do is very important to our communities, and I'm happy to answer any questions or be a resource should you have any needs within the community.
Any questions for Brian? Thank you very much, Brian.
Can I ask just one quick question?
Yes.
I have become aware of T-Mobile's work with Skylink.
Yes.
Can you speak to that? And is there what you can say in public about it, and what kind of time frame you're looking at?
Yeah. So T-Mobile has a partnership with Elon Musk and Starlink. We first got authority from the FCC to turn on emergency notifications, citizen emergency notifications during the hurricanes. Down when it came up through, Florida and the Carolinas and Virginia. It was kind of like hey, we're not ready to say it's good to go yet, but because there's nothing else, let's turn it on and see how it works. And it performed well for the emergency alert system for the citizens. There is testing going on right now on it as far as a rollout. One thing I want to say about Starlink, because it always comes up, especially whenever we have sales calls, and again, I'm not going to make this a sales call, but, it's new technology. We're used to pulling out our phone and having, quick speeds and making phone calls. It's different. It's being tested right now. They activated it again in California during the wildfires. What that looks like in a year, in 6 months from now, I'm not sure. What I like to say is that we have that relationship. We are testing right now, and stay tuned on it. So I know it doesn't answer a lot, but I can tell you that I've seen it perform, and they were very happy when they used it both down south and out west.
The ultimate goal, if I'm in the woods with no cell coverage and I need 911 support or help, that I'll be able to use this handset to call 911 and reach them?
Absolutely. If you're up on the Adirondacks, where nobody has coverage, any of us up there have coverage up there, your phone's going to work up there, as long as you can see the sky. So that's the Starlink catch, is you have to be outside.
My wife was solicited as a beta tester for it.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah, there's some beta testing going on with it. That's the business side, so, I don't want to get too much into it, but the point is, and how exciting is this? This is the next evolution of wireless communication, is instead of having to reach a physical tower on the Earth, we're hitting those low orbiting satellites. And, but I think the challenge right now, what's kind of slowing things down, is we're waiting for that mesh network to be built by Starlink over the entire country, the entire planet. If you've been to Cape Canaveral, and you got excited because you got to see a launch the people who live there aren't excited because they're launching like once or twice a week. So that's just how many satellites are going up. But eventually, that's the goal, is to have connectivity that way.
Good. Anybody else? As you say, thank you.
As I was saying, just generically on public broadband perspective, the other carriers are also looking at satellite technologies as well, and as well as some the device manufacturers have separate agreements, like Apple has emergency SOS or satellite. So it's being spread across the entire marketplace as well.
Thanks, Mike. Great. Thanks, Brian. Okay. Anything else under new business? All right, I'll entertain a motion to accept new business. Jeff? Bob Terry, second. Bob Terry, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. For the good of the order, anybody? I have one thing. 51 days till spring. Okay. All right, our next meeting will be Wednesday, May 21st, 2025. Everybody stay safe out there, and at this time we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Brian LaFleur, second. Tim Morris. Second, Brian. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thanks, everybody. I already had one earlier. Don't worry. I am going to monitor feedback. You're talking about the alerting? I don't know,